And appropriately, I stuck in that David Rudder there because dealing with what our guest is saying, it is the forgotten place, it seems to be. They are not taking Tobago as seriously as they should. Our guest I'm talking about is Christlyn Moore, interim political leader of the Tobago Forward.
Wrong selection, Mr. Bishop.
Yes,
wrong selection.
David just jumped in there on me.
Trinity to the board. Mr. Moore, you have called for criminal in all of this, yeah?
Yes.
You've called for criminal prosecuting or otherwise sanctioning of elected appointed office holders. Would this, from what you've said all along, do we gather that this has to be initiated by the central government?
Yes.
It cannot be initiated through some high court action by some individual, or how is it to be done? And do you see it at all, given the trend of everything that has happened in Tobago, happening at all?
Oh dear. I am really not hopeful, save and except if the people of Tobago continue to demand, and the trend has started. The people of Tobago must continue to demand that public officials be held to a particular standard, and more than that, that they be asked hard questions by relevant authorities. I mean, it cannot be that in an island of 50,000 people, governed for the last 12 years by the same group of people, that our standard of living has not risen appreciably, if at all, that by the THA's own books, they have close to $2 billion still sitting in contingency. Yet they're complaining last week that they're $200 million out and can't pay salaries. We have to start considering what is being told to us, and we have to start getting information that is out there and marrying the two things. And I think once there is an agitation for accountability across the board, then we will get the benefit of that agitation. In terms of whether I see the police investigating this matter, I can't say. We have called for a police investigation, and certainly we have written to the Commissioner of Police outlining the irregularities. We've written to the Minister of Finance, we've written to the Prime Minister, and we continue to keep the people in the loop and to really distill the information. Nobody wants to go and read a 14-page Auditor General's report. Certainly nobody wants to read 6 of those. So it is our job to distill the information into a palatable form, put it in the public domain, and ask the public if they are satisfied with the information. And if not, give them some options as to what they can do if they want something different.
It is 10:46, and we are continuing our discussion. There is the Tobago Regional Health Authority. They demanded an apology from you for a statement you made about the collection. You called it gruesome and worrisome, the manner in which the corneal transplants were going on in Tobago. They say that your information was wrong. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, Rennie, certainly they're not going to get an apology. This is an institution. This is not a person. An institution cannot be embarrassed or affronted. So clearly there's somebody in the institution who feels that he or she is the institution, in which case they really need to take a step back and look at this matter. This is a matter that concerns the implantation of biological material. I am not querying whether these surgeries were successful or not. That is not the point. The point is, if something is going to go into your body, you may well want to know where it came from. That's a simple point. And to me, this is not a difficult question. It was never meant to be a difficult question. It was meant to have the THE, have the TRHE disclose the source of their corneas. To me, they should have been happy to do this. In fact, they should have been happy to do this in detail. Tell us what bank it came from. Tell us how it came into the country. Show us the customs certification, so that the persons who have happily accepted corneas and whose lives have been changed would not have a moment of concern that something may go wrong. Alternatively, when you decide that you aren't going to disclose, or you say the least of the least, then it causes worry. then it causes even more questions. Then you put your own organization at risk because you are less than transparent. The fact is we don't have an eye bank here. The fact is corneas can be removed from cadavers and transplanted. That is a fact. Tell us where these corneas are coming from. Tell us how they're coming into the country. Tell us who authorized them, and show us the paperwork.
They're saying that you're making accusations without a. They're saying you're making accusations without a shred of evidence.
But
can I ask you to?
I don't know that I have to prove anything. All I have to do is ask. This is not an accusation, you know. This is a question. Where are the corneas coming from? Have they come into the country legally? Do they have the proper documentation? Show me. This is a question. Why is the TRHA standing accused? Is it because it feels it has done something for which it ought to be accused?
The Tobago forwards is what we are talking about. So we are going into a general election here, and we are hoping to sway the Tobago voters to come to the forwards, and give you a chance to represent them and make better of the situation you see right now. Why should they be voting for the Tobago forwards? I mean, what's the alternative plan is the question that is offered. You know, I'm looking at the Auditor General's report where the Auditor General is saying every year we have extensive incursion on funds put aside that is contrary to the THA Act. That on its face begs for an explanation.
And that would be where the Auditor General is talking about the incursions into that contingency account, that emergency account, that money is going before time and they are taken out for purposes that cannot be ascertained. And even where the purpose can be ascertained, there are no supporting documents to demonstrate how the money was spent. So you take out $10 million, let's say, and you say it goes to NEMA, or you say it goes to CPEP, but how can you demonstrate to me, one, that it went there, and two, what did it do there?
The voice you're hearing is that of Christlyn Moore, the interim political leader of the Tobago Forwards. Now, we have seen this situation. You articulated and made clear to our listeners some areas of it. Should the Forwards make the incursion into the Tobago House of Assembly and getting there, and you feel the candidates for the upcoming election, how would you address this?
This is a matter that we need to get ahead of, and I'll tell you why we need to get ahead of it, and I'll tell you how it ought to be treated with. We need to get ahead of it because if it hasn't happened already, it will soon happen that the reputation of Tobagonians will be tarnished. It will soon happen that we are viewed as institutional thieves. It will soon happen that we are viewed as mismanagers of the national patrimony. We cannot afford that. We cannot afford it because we are pressing for internal self-government. And quite frankly, it is an inconsistency to press on one hand for greater powers when you are not managing the powers that you have now. That's the first matter. The second matter is how ought it to be done. We accept that the Auditor General has some kind of institutional issues with getting ahead of these accounts. It is clear the Auditor General's department is consistently 8 years behind. So what do we do? Do we throw up our hands? Of course not. The solution to this is not new. Mr. London stumbled on this in 2001, just has not, it appears, had the courage to carry it out. And the solution is to hire a reputable and international firm of accountants to look at your books and bring you up-to-date account to the national public. That does not relieve the Auditor General of his or her responsibility. But certainly you will have an organization of institutional and international repute
who are looking into these books. But here's an area that bothers me greatly, and I would take the enlightenment from you. If you have the THA not meeting the guidelines, using the same modality that the Auditor General is using, he has complained for years we have a problem with it. It is evident. Yes. What recourse is there?
Well,
I mean, they're not listening to him. Haven't been listening to him for years. Let's say that's the case. I mean, what recourse is there?
Now that is an interesting question. The answer to that question is not a simple one. What we rather suspect is that the contingency account has been used for quite a long time as a slush fund for the party in power. there is no other real explanation. And when I say the party in power, I mean the party in power in the THA.
Yes.
Okay, before I don't want to cut a trend of thoughts, but I wanted to take us to party in power. How old and how long has the contingency fund been in existence?
The contingency fund is part of the mechanism of the THA. The THA was established under the THA Act in 86.
All right, so I'm going back because while you've been talking all along, and I'm going back to Huchoy Charles. At the time, Mr. London was very vocal about what he saw as corruption for Huchoy Charles, even when he was building the residence.
That is correct.
Right, for the chief secretary. And now Mr. London is now in the booth is on his foot, and he's doing almost the same thing that he accused Charles of.
Well, I am not so sure that is true. I hold no brief for Huchoy Charles, and certainly he doesn't need me to defend him. But when Mr. London succeeded the throne, let us say, he performed 3 audits. 3 audits, spent over $5 million auditing the books of Huchoy Charles.
And came up with nothing? Okay.
So we know that there was a large brouhaha with regard to Huchoy and the ring bank fiasco, and bad decisions were made. He is not unique in that regard. People can make bad decisions without being corrupt. People can make bad decisions without stealing money. So that 3 audits were done into those books, and all came up quite clean. So there is that matter. Coming back to your question as to what could be done, the central government has to be sufficiently concerned. The central government orders audits. It puts together teams of auditors to investigate individual matters in individual ministries. So X amount of $1 million is being paid out on carnival tickets that's not even a ministry in some state sector, and immediately an inquiry is launched. The central government via the Ministry of Finance asks a question. The central government needs to be sufficiently concerned with what is happening in Tobago to ask a question. And I don't mean ask a casual question. It is open for the Minister of Finance, and certainly we have asked that the Minister of Finance launch a financial audit into the affairs of the THA. We have asked for the Prime Minister to consider that this is a sufficiently important matter to consider that a commission of inquiry is warranted, because you see, we are only at 2006 and we have a discrepancy of $1 billion. What is going to happen when we get to 2007? What is going to happen when we eventually get to 2015?
My fracture with this combination of things here come in this sense. The THA is controlled by the PNM.
Yes, it is.
The governing body for Trinidad and Tobago is the PP government. Okay. Now, there is a problem with the Auditor General and the THA. And as we say, at the end of the day, it must come back to the central government. Why have they been reluctant to bring forward a commission of inquiry? I would think they would be more than anxious to do that, would they not?
I would have thought so as well. You see, when you look at rural neglect, and you have to accept that this is how Tobago is viewed by central government. We are essentially your country cousins. When you talk about rural neglect, it's not only roads and drains and schools and buildings that are neglected when a government embarks on rural neglect. What is also neglected are institutions, policies, structures, interrogations, because you can't neglect one thing and not neglect the other. The fact is, if you're behind God back, then God does not see anything that you do. And I am afraid that for far too long, we have been victims of rural neglect. And it almost doesn't matter who sits in central government. The countryside has always suffered from large elements of rural neglect. And I fear that the whole passing of the buck, as it were, with regard to these financial irregularities are a factor of rural neglect.
It's like almost like saying let Tobagonians handle their own affairs and we're not getting involved in that.
That is right. Now,
before you go, is there anything within the THA then to regulate?
The THA,
or it has to be regulated from the national?
No, the THA can regulate itself in the sense that certain things need to happen. One, as I said, the THA ought to have been willing enough, they ought to have the testicular fortitude enough to want to get ahead of this ball and to say, look, central government, you have fallen down on it. This is completely the fault of the Auditor General. We can, as they've said, we can't keep our books and receipts so long. But knowing that we have problems keeping our books and receipts so long, we are going to get ahead of the curve and we are going to call in international people so that you all don't accuse us of doing anything poorly. That is one response. There is a greater response as well in that the THA has not tabled its financial rules in time. The THA Act 18 years ago sought to have the THA table its financial rules in parliaments within 2 months of the coming into force of the Act. I think a year later, the rules were sent. Of course, the time limit had gone. And I know they've sent rules sometime after that. But of course, it is now too late. Unless the THA Act is amended, the rules cannot now be tabled consistently with the Act. So the THA ought to be asking for the Act to be amended so that the rules can be tabled. What is in fact happening is the THA is acting in an absence of financial rules that are sanctioned by the Parliament.
107.7, you are listening to Brunch. I'm Rennie Bishop and Sharmain Baboolal, and we are talking to Christlyn Moore, interim political leader of the Tobago Forwards. Good morning. Who's this, please?
Yeah, hello, good morning. My name is Gerald.
Yes, Gerald, where are you calling us from?
I'm listening carefully to what the goodly lady is saying.
Yes.
And I, also as a past auditor, am very much concerned. I've been reading about this whole sordid affair in the papers. And apparently, it's just being swept under the carpet. I find that there should be more commentary, public commentary on it,
Yes.
but I think it's being clouded because of the whole election scenario. But please tell me, what, according to the Exchequer Ordinance and the Constitution, what could be done to bring the Tobago House of Assembly to book for their shortcomings?
Yes, and that is the question, caller, that we've been bedeviling. Really, it has to come from central government. And again, it has very little to do with who is in office. You know, the answer to this question is the same. Central government must decide that THA is important enough to be called to account, that the people of Tobago are important enough that it will call the THA to account. Because you see, it is an affront to us as well. When you say to us, as Tobagonians, that $1 billion of money that was allocated for the improvement of our lives cannot be accounted for, then you really spit in our eye. And so it is not only an affront to the national public and the national purse, but it is an affront to us on a day-to-day basis. Most of us are earning wages of below $5,000 in temporary CPEP type work. Most of us are in failing small businesses because there is no entrepreneurial class. There's no circulation of income on the island to sustain small entrepreneurs. And you're saying to me quite cavalierly that $1 billion cannot be accounted for. It cannot be right.
That indeed is going to be one of the areas that I want to get from you, extract from you before we go in the short time we have remain. So let me ask you, which is the question I asked a moment ago. Tobagonians are now hearing that the Forward, which is a group that came out of the TOP, asking them to put their trust in them. They are asking the same question. Yes, you agreed when we echoed, and you expanded on the idea of the THA having so much control over the employ of Tobagonians and the commerce by natural extension. What are the Forwarders proposing to alleviate this? How are you proposing to change this?
As I said, we have to reimagine our landscape. So in the time we have left, I would like to concentrate on perhaps just a few things. Most of us remember, our generation, Rennie, and the one before, remembers when Tobago operated as the breadbasket of not only Trinidad and Tobago, but as the Caribbean. Flora devastated that and changed our landscape forever. But that does not mean that that is not something that can be resuscitated. The question is, why has it not been resuscitated? The popular answer is that, well, young people are not interested in agriculture and, there's a mass migration and all that. But that really isn't the full story by half. The fact is that we do not have any plant on the island where we can store goods at internationally accepted standards, where we can transform goods. And when I say goods, I mean produce and livestock. So that we can get a value added onto it. We do not have any certified plant where we can store for export and meet international standards. So every year, and this is a small example, but every year we have millions of mangoes that drop to the ground and spoil. Every year we continue to sell individual livestock as opposed to steaks and cuts. Every year, we continue to have land lying fallow in what I call the THA land bank. So until we find a way to give our people proper processing material, then that aspect of our economy will continue to stagnate. And that is one way to open our people up.
That's the agriculture folks have been talking about. The service industry is what most countries, most populations like Tobago would have to go to in order to really make something viable via employment and to bring in
the revenue. Other one is, of course, tourism. As you know, we're heavily dependent on tourism. In 2012, we had about 500,000 in domestic tourism. And in 2014, we averaged 900 plus in domestic tourism. Now, the THA via the Secretary for Tourism has told us that we have increased our international visitors by, I don't remember the percentage, but it's quite appreciable. What she has failed to mention is that most of those visitors have come to us by way of cruise ships. And if you've ever been on a cruise ship, you know that when they dock, you don't stay long and you don't buy much. In fact, I have been on a cruise ship where the cruise director told the people not to buy anything on shore. They actually tell you that. They actually hold up trinkets and say, this is nonsense, don't buy this. So that the whole picture has not been revealed. And in fact, the Tobago Chamber of Commerce and the Tobago Hoteliers Association, in fact, has said that notwithstanding the increase in foreign tourism, they have not seen a consistent increase in rooms. And that is because the visitors are coming via cruise ship. So that the bedeviling of the tourism economy needs much more focused and professional attention as opposed to management by VAPs, which I'm afraid is what we are getting now. That is an area of focus that we would want to address to bring some sustainability to the industry, to expand the industry, and to provide a better standard of living for our people.
Christlyn, we'd like to thank you very much and close it up. We're sorry that we didn't get in any more callers on this. But as we go along towards the elections date, and obviously when the bell rings, we know we're going to have you back here because we are as well committed to keeping it balanced and fair with Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that voice will be appreciated here.
Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate the invitation. And if you give me an opportunity to say good day to my parents, Christy and Lambo, and Desmond in Plymouth. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Very good. All right. We have a lot more questions we didn't get to, but the next time we'll reserve the time with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.